Yes, hello, welcome back to the Rugby League Forecast podcast. My name is Connor Moran, and today I will be going through the best bench utilities, the best number 14s of the NRL era. Just going to adjust the camera a little bit there. The episode I released yesterday, that was pre-recorded, and I recorded that Sunday morning before work. Since then, the terrible tragedy has happened at Bondi Beach, and I haven't actually recorded an episode since. And I just want to send my condolences to everyone that has been affected by that, everyone that was there at the scene, that had to witness it, that lost loved ones. I just send my best wishes, all my love, as the whole country does. I just wanted to start it off with that because, as I mentioned, I haven't recorded anything since then, and yeah, I mean, obviously, rugby league's just a game, and it's not that important considering everything else in the world. And I'm just so sorry for everyone that has been affected by it. And as I mentioned, Australia has been rocked by this and will be, personally, I believe, for many, many years. So my deepest condolences to those affected by the tragedy that had happened the other day at Bondi Beach. We'll get into it now. The best bench players, the best utilities of the NRL era. This was a little bit difficult, but in terms of trying to put down in order who I think it will be, my top three will be, but let's get into it. I want to put one player in there, but I couldn't fit him in. Mitch Orbison. He played a fair majority of his career in the second row position, but he was also a great bench utility for a large amount of his career as well. A really great player, knew how to come on and change the game, the momentum for the Sydney Roosters. He was a great utility. You could have put him at, honestly, you could have put Mitch Orbison lock, second row, in the halves if you really wanted to. If you were really short in the centres, you know, he was a great utility. You could even put him at dummy half at times and he'd do a job. I think he played almost every position in his career at the Sydney Roosters. A one clubman, Mitchell Orbison, and no doubt one of the great Roosters players of all time. He wasn't a superstar, but he was just Mr. Reliable. And I thought he was a great bench utility player coming off the bench for many years for the Roosters. Now let's get into my top three. For me, Connor Watson is an outstanding 14. He's my third. In the 1998 to 2025 NRL era, Connor Watson would be in my top three. If you remember Origin 3 last year, the decider, New South Wales going up to Queensland, when Connor Watson came on in that final 20, 25 minutes of that second half, he absolutely transformed the momentum. He transformed the game. He brought in his offloading ability. And if you remember that try where Jerome Luai sidesteps defenders, throws a dummy, eventually cuts the ball out to Bradman Best and he scores. It was actually Connor Watson that had the ball and offloaded it back. Yes, the offload hit the ground, but he created the space. The offload allowed Jerome Luai to do what he did. It was a late offload too, so the Queensland Maroons defenders weren't expecting it. I thought Connor Watson was tremendous in that series. I thought he was good in the Origin series this year as well. I understand at the moment, well, in 2025, he was starting sometimes at hooker, sometimes as a lock forward. But for me, Connor Watson is an outstanding bench utility. He can play almost anywhere. He left the Sydney Roosters for the first time at the end of the 2017 season, went to the Newcastle Knights for the 2018 season, and they had a bunch of recruits coming to the club that year. I thought Rory Chris Jason, Kalen Ponga, Jaden Brayley may have come that year as well. And 2018 was a brand new start. Mitchell Pearce arrived at the club. Connor Watson played a bit of fullback that year, played in the halves, played on the bench. You could have put him anywhere. Even played, as I mentioned, a bit of fullback. So, bit of hooker. I just think he's an outstanding player. But for me personally, if I'm a coach, I'm putting Connor Watson as a 14 because of what he can offer off the bench. And with the amount of HIAs, with the amount of injuries that teams are getting at the moment, I just think Connor Watson is a player that can come on and fill that void whenever needed. An outstanding number 14, Connor Watson. Sure, his Origin series wasn't as strong or as good as the 2024 Origin series, but no doubt Laurie Daly needs to pick him as a number 14 again. If something happens to Dylan Edwards at fullback or whoever's there next year, James Tedesco, if something happens to Nathan Cleary or Mitchell Moses, if something happens to Reece Robson out of dummy half, Connor Watson can do a job. He can come in and do what he needs to do. He's played almost everywhere except in, second row and prop. I think honestly he's played probably everywhere else. I think his speed out of dummy half, his skill, his ball playing. He does have a kicking game on him as well. You don't see it much, but he can kick a ball. Especially his short kicking game is pretty impressive when he can do it. And when he's in a position to kick and I just think his defense is strong. A very great defender, especially close when opposition teams are in the red zone. He's rushing up, dragging them back. Very rarely misses a tackle. And what I love about Connor Watson too is he's a man that's come back from many injuries. 2022, 2023, he was out for a couple of years there. He suffered through injuries all the way through his career, but the story of redemption, the story of coming back and playing when his career looked like it was certainly almost over, for Connor Watson to come back and do what he did for New South Wales after all the injuries he's had doesn't just show what a player he is. It shows the strength of character. And for me, Connor Watson is definitely, without a doubt, in my top 3 best utilities. If you disagree, agree, please leave in the comments. But Connor Watson, I think, for me, is absolutely outstanding. This one might be a little bit controversial, but for me, Dylan Walker is my number 2. Now, he was the centre for the South Sydney Rabbitohs in the 2014 Grand Final against the Canterbury Bulldogs, where South ended up winning that game. And for me, Dylan Walker is an outstanding number 14. He can play centre. He can play in the halves. You can put him at fullback. Desi Hasler put him at fullback for a couple of games in 2021. You can put him at dummy half to fill a void. You can put him at lock. For me personally, he's a lock now. He's a 13. And when he comes on from that number 14 jersey off the bench and plays in the middle, that's when he's at his best. If you bring Dylan Walker on with about 10 minutes to go until half time and then maybe 20 minutes to go until full time, I think that's when he can change the game, change the momentum. And you only have to see it for the Parramatta Eels this year. In the first 4 rounds, Parramatta lost every single game. Round 5, they versed the Dragons, winning Golden Point. And that's around the time then Dylan Walker came from the Warriors over to the Parramatta Eels for family reasons. He was away from his family. And for me personally, I think part of Parramatta's climb back up the ladder was based on what Dylan Walker had to achieve, what he achieved at Parramatta. I just believe he ended the year wearing the number 13 jersey, but I believe personally right now his best position is that 14 utility, where he played many years at Manly and the Warriors in that 14, and he offered a lot. He also played a lot of 14 at Parramatta, but towards the end of the year, Jack Williams, Jermaine Hopgood, they kept switching. I think Hopgood ended up the year in the number 8 jersey as a prop forward. Personally, I think Jermaine Hopgood is a lock. I think he should be the 13 for Parramatta. Jack Williams should be the number 8 alongside Junior Polo. But I think Dylan Walker's best position, as he has entered now his early 30s and towards the back stages of his career, I think he's a tremendous 14. And if something happened to Connor Watson in the Origin series next year and they picked Dylan Walker on the bench, I would have no problems with that based on what he can achieve in the middle. He can get a side back from 14 to 16 points down and come back and win. That's how influential he is. After 4 rounds, Parramatta were dead last on the bottom of the ladder, and they climbed up 5 or 6 spots to finish the season based on what Dylan Walker did since he got there. A big reason Jason Rolls and the Parramatta Eels turned their season around in a positive way and showing the fans and proving to the fans that there is a clear rebuild here and they're on the way to achieving something great over the next few years. is based on the fact that Dylan Walker came to the club. He transformed their attack. He reads the game well. And I'd love to sit down and have a conversation with Dylan Walker for half an hour based on how he views the game, what he sees, because the decisions he makes, especially in attack, the decisions Dylan Walker can make to transform the game, to transform momentum, is unbelievable. It's second to none how good he is and the decisions he makes. I think personally his rugby league IQ would be through the roof. And I'd love to sit down and have a chat to him, to learn off him, to learn of what he can, what he sees in a game of football and the decisions he knows what to make. Is he playing? Is he improvising when he's playing, or is he on the bench knowing that's something he has to do? You know, no worries. I'll see you soon. Has to do that. So um yeah, so I think it's I think for me he's one of the best. I think Dylan Walker is without a doubt one of the best number 14s um uh in the game at the moment. And I think, in the NRL era for me, he's been a classic 14. I think he's played his best football in that bench utility role. Number one for me, and I don't think this is controversial, and I think most of you rugby league fans and nerds listening to me right now would totally agree that Craig Wing was the best 14 in the game. Now, Craig Wing actually played halfback in the 2002 grand final win over the Warriors for the Sydney Roosters, playing alongside Brad Fittler, who was the number 6 in that game and captain. Craig Wing, outstanding player. Played a lot of his career at the Sydney Roosters, then went over to South Sydney, played some of his best football at South Sydney, considering they did struggle for a few years there. But Craig Wing, you could put him at hooker, lock occasionally, but a couple of times in rep games he'd come off the bench and play in that ball playing lock style. But it wasn't that common back then when the game 20 years ago. But the speed he had, the skill he had, especially out of dummy half, for me, Craig Wing, I'll always remember him as a 14. But when he came on, his best position was hooker. The way he could combine with Andrew Johns, Braith Anasta, Trent Barrett in New South Wales, the way he could come on, transform his game, defensively so strong, and a real leader. I remember 2008 round one, and it was the first game of the season, and it was between South Sydney and the Sydney Roosters. And the Channel 9 cameras went down to the dressing rooms, and for South Sydney, the only bloke talking was Craig Wing. The only bloke talking, I think Roy Asatasi was in the side as well for South Sydney, and he said a few things, but Craig Wing did the majority of the talking. He was a leader. He was a premiership winner. He'd played in a few grand finals in his career, and not that it matters, but personally for me, the sexiest man in the history of rugby league, without a doubt. Beautiful eyes, beautiful skin, and I just think he was the full package, to be honest, and that's coming from a straight white 30-year-old male. He's an outstanding player, and he was, and I guarantee you, if he played, he still looks fit. If he played now, I reckon he'd hold up. Like, honestly, he looks so fit. A lot of those old Roosters players still look really fit. Luke Ricketson, Anthony Minicello, he must be the fittest retired player in the history of rugby league. Craig Wing, outstanding player. He came on and knew exactly what he had to do, and just his speed, his skill, his kicking game, he had it all. He had such great ability of he had, probably from the way he played, natural born talent, but he knew what to do with it at the right time. He picked his times, he picked his moments, he knew what he had to do at the certain time to change the game. And I think a lot of people come off the bench, a lot of players come off the bench and play a role, and they just try and ease into the game. I've got no doubt by the way Craig Wing played, he came on and he knew exactly what he needed to do. And he would have been analysing the game from the bench going, this is where I need to be. This is what I need to do in this exact minute. For me, I personally reckon by the way Craig Wing played, he was extremely organised. He analysed the game from the bench in that number 14 jersey. I think he played his best football at the Sydney Roosters and for New South Wales. I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure when he retired, he may have gone over and played Japanese rugby. But I know he came back to Australia a couple of years later An outstanding player, Craig Wing. For me, the best number 14 the game has ever seen, actually. I know I'm only going from 1998 to 2025, but I'm a rugby league nerd, and I just believe that I've heard a lot of older men speak about that have watched in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Even my pop. I remember my pop years ago saying to me that um, Craig Wing was the best number 14 he's seen, and that was around 2005 when he said that. And he'd been watching the game since the 40s, 50s. So, yeah, I think Craig Wing, outstanding, best number 14 of the NRL era, without a doubt. If you disagree, agree, please leave me something in the comments in terms of who your top three are. Really intriguing, really interesting going through the 14s. As I mentioned, I thought Mitchell Orbison was a great player. As I mentioned, in the 2010 grand final, he started in, I'm going to say the number 12 jersey, second row. He had a great grand final, even though they lost 32 points to 8 or whatever the score was. He was one of the best players in that grand final, winning a premiership for the Roosters in 2013, 2018, 2019, a three-time premiership winner, Mitchell Orbison, an outstanding player. Really wanted to put him on the list, but I think he probably started for the Roosters probably too much for me to put him on the list. But when he did come on from the bench, he transformed their attack. Strong defender, but totally transformed their attack. And the way in which he was able to communicate with the halves, Mitchell Pearce, and the way he was able to relate to them, and the way in which he was able to combine with the halves as a player that came off the bench was pretty remarkable. And Mitchell Pearce, for me, was an outstanding halfback too. I wish I could put him on that list of halves. Yes, he had a shocking career in Origin, but if you watched his game and watched it closely, I thought he was, for many, many years in the top three halfbacks of the game. That's all we've got time for today. Thank you very much for listening. I've gone now through all the positions: best fullbacks, wingers, centres, 5/8s, halfbacks, props, hookers, second rowers, and locks. And now I've just done the number 14s. Please, if you haven't seen the other videos or listen on Spotify, please listen to the others because it's really great reflecting on the greatest game of all, especially in the NRL era. Now, for the rest of the year, I'm going to continue doing season reviews. We got up to, I think it was the Dragons, and I think the Tigers may be next. So, yeah, I'll just keep making my way down until we get to the Raiders, who finished in first place. Yes, I know the Broncos won the premiership, but I'm just going to go through the regular season ladder. I've done the Knights, the Gold Coast Titans, and I've tried to be as positive as I can be. Unfortunately, Newcastle, I couldn't find overly many positives, but going into the new year too, I'll be going to do 2026 season previews. And I can't believe it's less than 11 weeks until kickoff. Like, if you double the time from the grand final to now, double that time again, we're there. So it'll fly by. And these 2026 previews are going to be good fun. And I want to hear your opinion. I'll be calling a couple of mates to come on the podcast. I'd love to get my dad on the podcast too to have a chat. He's a rugby league nerd as well, has very high rugby league IQ. So it'll be good to get his perspective and reviews and previews of certain clubs as well. So, of course, Patrick was the 2007 Division 2 Premiership winning coach for the Beacon Hill Bears, but a tremendous coach he was. Seriously, he was, even though we won the Premiership in Division 2. He coached the Bears for 10 years and was a great coach. So, it'd be great to get his perspective on certain things as well. And Dad and I don't always agree on everything in rugby league. So that's what I want to bring to the podcast. So I want people to have their own opinions and you know, tell me what they really think. And I think that's good to learn from other people as well. Thank you very much for listening to the Rugby League Forecast podcast. If you haven't done already, please follow on Spotify and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Cheers.